My presentation here is that female donors at Sarnath, this issues of gender and endowments, and basically the idea and theme of this paper is epigraphical sources that was found in different group of the sculptures, seals, etc. Not literary sources were counted here. Though in the literary sources, the idea of donations and the donors have a sizable presence when you're talking about the Sarnath. Like you talk about the nun Supriya, who has donated a part of a thigh and just indirectly just contributed the enormous contribution in the framing one of the most important law of the Buddhism. But here's just, I have just localized my presentation, you can say, only through the economic sources and try to just give some of my views on the debates that is going on all over the world, especially about the women's in the both category of women's, you can say, the nuns and as well as the lay followers. Definitely we will talk about the epigraphic evidences, then the age starts with the Ashoka, and the inscription, the first epigraphic evidence that we found on the pillars of Ashoka, though definitely it was not talking about the Dhammacakka Pravartan, but it gives a very important information about what is going on in his age, and especially it talks about the two groups, that one is about the group of the monks, Sangha of the monks, and another was talking about the Sangha of the nuns. Two very important points that he just located in the inscription was widely debated but in a different way, but I have my own view and basically just try to reinterpret the idea that is existing in it. And the very first thing is that talking about he's not talking about the Sangha of monks and nuns, but also just give the wide representation that why he's talking about the both. And the very first thing that he instructed his officials to look after that what is going on. That's just he shows that to maintain the discipline in the Sangha of both nun and monks. And finally, if you are not, they are not following, they would be vice robe and they should be expelled from the Sangha. So the very first point thing is that he's talking about the group of the nunneries, basically I'm talking about the women here, who was living in the surrounding area. So that gives you very important informations. There is a wide spread presence of the nunneries, especially in the area, especially where the inscription, not only the Sarnath, the earliest paleographic evidences show that first such inscription was in the Sanchi, then Sarnath and the Kaushambi. All three areas just represent that it was not only for the area where this pillar is localized, but also they instructed the officers to just look out the other areas, so shows that there's a wider presence of the nunneries in the area. So very first thing that he just talked about to that. And the very second thing that what she talks about the she's, that what is happening, that is the differentials that was created. When you look out to other things, you just found, when you just took the support of the Buddhist literary evidences, basically in the both southern and northern traditions, you found that there is something also happening basically. It was not simply the idea that you got only that it was the outsiders, the people of the other faith, you can say some of the persons who are not interested in the Buddhist learning were residing in the monk. But it also just indicates when you just look out and just go for introspecting the ideas that what is happening through the second Buddhist council to the age of the Ashoka, you find that there is certain pacifist tendencies that is just creeping in the Buddhist nuns, in the Buddhist Sanghas. And basically in such some of the tendencies, you found that the idea of the donations, basically, especially by the nuns and the monks, may have started taking place that was not liked by the Ashoka. Because if you just look out to just a phase immediate by the Ashoka, you just found that in the continuation of, you can say, that Ashokan inscription, you found that there is a lot of evidences just you found just after the decline of the modern age, and when this Kushana age is started in this area. And basically I have just given you two very important evidences of the 2nd century BC, in which thus one legend is only found. This is a fragmented inscription, that is Bhikshuniye Samvahike, and basically Danam Alambanam. Alambanam is the concept of the lower portion of the rail, basically. So she is donating some portion of the rail, means the donation by the nun was just started not only in the Kushana era, maybe in the earlier era, that was a continue, because it was not the new phenomena that she was mentioning. And then a parallel donation was again just find that that just mentioned Bharaniya Saham Jatike. So two nuns together, just Jatike and Bharani, just making such donations just in the 2nd century BC. So this process basically just started taking shape, in my opinion, during the age of Ashoka, and then continued in the Kushana age and taken different routes till the 12th century. So very first just point just I have just deliberated here, and the only 15 minutes given, so I'm discussing main hypothesis, that some of that just I have drawn in my papers. And second is the very important point that I have just raised here, that is widely now so very hot kind of the research, especially when you're just dealing with the modern contemporary research in the world. And basically that was it was a specific point word, that was that discovery of disappearing women, basically. And who is the disappearing women? And that disappearing woman is basically the nuns, basically, whose the word, when you just go to the research basically from the 70s up to 2000, is considered to be almost a very negligible findings were given to them. And but the new hypotheses are coming, and I'm just naming the scholars, basically the three very important contributors who have just basically, that is the Jinnah Kim and the Miranda Shah and the R.M. Davidson, basically, who just discuss about the different perspective that the idea of the disappearing woman is not true, what we has discussed earlier. And but basically their area of concentration was 9th to 12th century, and especially the eastern region, especially the Pala region of the Pala region, and especially the Bengal and the some part of the Tibet they have just taken into account. And but their main hypothesis that I have counted it that you should not go to the only the epigraphical sources, you should not go only to literary sources. The sculpture is a very important source, that is the hidden kind of the source that you have to look out and just seek that where women, either it is a nun or either it is a lay person, have a presence. So you have to look out a very important material that was not discussed or not hitherto just explored. So he just took out the idea, especially about the Pala sculptures, and have given the various view, basically. And I have applied this idea, especially in the Sarnath, and had found that it was not only the 9th to 12th century, basically, but its earliest picture itself is found in the Sarnath, basically. And that particular idea, that was just found in the 4th century Common Era itself. And that you just see that this is one of the most popular and most profound sculpture of the Sarnath. And you can see that with the Panchbhagya Bhikshu, the lady who is the donor is just sitting with her child. So this is the most profound idea that you got, and that study just took in it to the 4th century AD, that this process not started in the 9th century, basically it's the 4th century that this idea is basically started. So this is a very important just hypothesis that was just you find here. Second important thing is that about what is the social status you are talking about, and especially when you talk about the Sarnath. And I just go to the rivers. when is the latest inscription, and then I come to the fourth early age. And the latest inscription that is considered to be the last inscription of the Sarnath was the most profound inscription of the Sarnath, and it was the most prosperous lady that just donated and almost renovated 1/3 of the sacred complex of the Sarnath. And the lady was the great patron Kumar Devi, that is the queen of Govinda Chandra Gahadwala. And she just built the largest ever monastery of the Sarnath, that is the Dharmachakra Jina Vihara, and basically almost renovated the all important sites, including the Ashokan site she mentions. And when you talk about the other pieces, social status, you just go that it's considered to be one of the most wonderful statue, and the lady definitely who is sitting is supposed to be some of the elite class. And one of the very important caste is, important factor here is that no caste affiliation is mentioned. It's the rarest of rare things just found in the Sarnath, that almost caste is just given the less importance, but it is just pertinent in the other sites that some of the ideas just given that. Other very important thing that basically what I personally perceive, that women representation from every level of the economic group there. Because when you just found the findings, you have 100 of the 1,000 of the OTIV stupas, right from this walnut to, from this size to you say huge size, and in which some of them just have the epigraphic evidence that is donated by women. So finally just we perceive, and almost a number of other scholars also have given the idea, that women of every status and the both category, that women and lay, basically had some OTIV donations, and that was continued from the early age up to 13th to 14th century. That was because this site just was learned late, and I have just finally just proved it that this site was almost run up to the 16th century and destroyed by the Aurangzeb. Because this is the only site when you got the evidence that this site was destroyed by the gunpowder. And so gunpowder was first time used in India in the northern India, it's in the Kashmir, and basically in the Indian plain by in the Battle of Panipat. So after that it was the Aurangzeb who has destroyed the site. So the site has the very continuity up to the latter age, and so such kinds of just donation was just continue. Other very important factor that just I have just explored it basically is what is the nature of changes that is coming in the OTIV donations, especially by the women. And from the 6th century onwards, we got a very important change in the pattern of donations basically, that are dedicatory formulas, especially the Mahayana formulas was like Deya Dhamma Hetu Prabhu and all, which is included there with the donor's name or without the name. Because we have a majority of the inscription, the fragmentary, so we have got only one name or just to be given the two name, or so simply this is the idea that we got, that very important pattern that we got, that the dedicatory formulas were started. And from the 9th century onwards, there is a very other pattern in the such votive donations, especially by the women's in the both category. Then we go to the donations of the 4th century and 5th century and 6th century. The earliest donation that you have seen in that Buddha in the Dharmachakra mudra, you found that especially the imagery of the Buddha himself are almost some of the Bodhisattva was in the majority. From the 9th century onwards, you find that such donations in the sculpture was just transformed, especially to the in the 6th to 7th, 8th century, it was the Mahayana basically dedicatory formulas with the sculptures. And after 9th to 12th century, the majority of the such sculptural donations are basically with the deities related to the Vajrayana. Specifically, when you call about the female deities itself were donated, like the Vajravarahi and the Tara were the dominant mode of the sculptures that the donors donated, and with some other, you can say, deities like the Akshobhai, like Avalokiteshwar. So this is the transformation you got from the Buddha to the Vajrayana deities that just culminated in the 12th century AD. So this is the very important kind of things. And That process just continued up to the 13th and 14th century. And the last point that is discussed, when you go for the modern ethnographic profile to the area of the Sarnath, especially not only the Sarnath, in the whole eastern region, you found though Buddhism has lost its credence and against reviving, but Buddhist social, you can say, phenomena that was just taken and proliferated by women never lost there. The stupas, the type, the model, the different categories, the size basically, that what you can say just taken as a memento, especially by the women, became the household accessories. So it still is a customary, but this is 1 minute, I will just take, just ending. And it is now a customary in the both religious circumstances and in the secular circumstances, though stupa is not directly mentioned, but the potteries, but the sacred objects looking like a stupa is still very, very, very prominent in everyday life of the region. So I have just taken the picture. This is the old from the ACI, if you're just looking on the screen, that stupa is dominant in the every house ideas there. It is in form of gulhak, just to collect money, or as a religious symbol, as a sati symbol, in every form, that whole Bihar and just eastern UP is just percolated with the such idea. So these are some of the points that I just tried to discuss, and before I say thank you, I again just say thank you to Dr. Ujjwal Kumar, who has invited me here. So thank you.